Welcome to Viscount's organ tutorial series for 2019, which we're recording this year in the beautiful church of St Mary's, Witney. I'm Francis Rumsey, organist and choirmaster here, and in this series I'll be discussing registration schemes for various styles of music with Jonathan Kingston. We're using a Viscount Regent 356 Physis-based digital organ, which offers a lot of registration flexibility over 3 manuals and pedals. We hope that you'll enjoy listening to our ideas about how to deal with music ranging from Basque chorale preludes through to Franck and howls. For our 4th tutorial in this year's series, Jonathan and I are going to look at registering César Franck's Chorale No. 3 in A minor. Franck's music was written mostly in the late 1800s, and the sound world he was used to would have been heavily inspired by the Cavaillé-Coll instrument at St Clotilde in Paris, where he played. There are some combinations of stops and sounds that are particular to Franck, but knowing about these might help in registering other French music of the period. So what are the ideas and sounds that we should consider when playing these pieces on a typical, well-specified English organ? Jonathan, we're going to look at the beginning of the chorale. Just before we begin, he talks about the jeu de fond and the jeu d'anche at various places to bring them on, take them off, and so forth. Can you just briefly explain what he means there?
Yes, I mean, the registration suggestions really with jeu de fond indicating the foundation stops of the manuals and pedals, foundation being stops predominantly of 8-foot tone without the reeds, perhaps 8 and 4 principals or diapasons. You can include the oboe on the swell for an extra bit of colour if you like. Jeu d'anche involves adding a battery of reeds on any division. Usually Franck will specify which one in order to add volume to build towards any particular harmonic climax.
Right. So basically a wind chest with all the upper work on it that could be brought on separately.
That's right.
Okay,
yes.
so at the beginning he talks about the fonds and the anche at 8-foot only. Is that what you've got registered here, or something like it?
Yes and no. I mean, the French organs, of course, speak with a rather different accent to their English counterparts. Their harmonics can be brighter, both in terms of the reeds and, of course, the flue work. You may well find on an English organ that if you were just to take that as its word and use 8-foot stops only, it may be rather lacking in terms of outright volume and certainly in terms of brilliance. So on this particular instrument being voiced along the English lines, I'm using 8 and 4-foot principals and plus the reeds on the grate and the swell at 8-foot pitch.
Right, but no mixtures?
No.
Right, okay, can we hear that then?
Yes.
Thank you. Good. And then if we just skip along to the point where at the end of that section he begins to knock stuff off.
Yes.
In order to bring the level down again. What do we do here?
Yeah, so you have some layered chords, if you like, with a rising pedal statement, a rising pedal theme, and then he gives you the indication to diminuendo, and at this particular point I remove the great 16-foot double that may have been added, the 8-foot reed, and close the box down on the swell. I quite like the reediness of tone to continue through this, so rather than remove the reeds completely, I just remove the heavier reeds and actually box down the swell in order to retain that colour.
Okay, let's hear this change then. Thank you. And then if we could jump along to the E minor chorale statement there. So this is registered sort of loud-ish, but on the foundations. Can we hear this? It's got the oboe in it, has it?
It has. In fact, I'm adding the oboe and the vox humana
Right.
just for an extra dimension of colour. Franck does request that organists use the resi division or the swell division, which of course is the one that's primarily under expression. So indications of forte and piano are to be done with the box rather than adding or removing registers through this particular phrase. So yeah, box open, 8 and 4 foot principals with the oboe and the vox humana.
And if we knocked the reeds off that, it would lose a certain something, wouldn't
Yes,
it?
it
Can
would.
we just hear?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, that's interesting. That now starts to sound like howls rather than Franck,
It's a
doesn't
bit.
it?
Yes, it
interesting.
definitely anglicizes the accent, doesn't it?
Okay, and then let's move along to the beginning of the central section where we've got this tune in the right hand over a gentle accompaniment.
That's right.
What have you got registered?
Well, he requests you to use the jus de fond, so a fairly healthy clump of 8-foot foundation stops, along with the 8-foot oboe and the trompette. We don't have a trompette, but we do have a cornopian in line with most similar English organs.
Yeah, it is actually voiced a bit like a trompette here. So
excellent. So that it will speak like that. So those are the combination of stops which Franck requests, and they sound rather like this. And again, one can use the expression boxes to add to the variety of dynamic range.
Right,
there.
and then with the accompaniment?
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah. That's very typically from the oboe and the trumpet together.
Working together, yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And in the left-handed pedal there, I just have a soft pedal register at 16 foot, along with the quietest great 8-foot flute, coupled to some fairly keen strings on the choir. If you need to give your accompaniment a little more or a little less, again, that's under expression as well, so it helps with the balance.
Okay. And then we've got the final sort of D-flat major entry where the great comes in, which is another big juncture, isn't it, to engineer?
Right, that's right. The registration change here, again, he doesn't particularly specify much, but it's fairly clear to see that the grand orgue or the great is the primary manual for the melodic material here. And when I've played this piece in the past, I tend to use the collective 8-foot diapasons and flutes of the great organ in order to put that melody across, balanced against the jus de fond registration, including the oboe of the swell. And I keep that registration going and then add incrementally to the swell and to the great for this climax that happens.
A crescendo.
That's right, before the final toccata.
All right, well, let's play through that section.
Okay.
Although that's not the end of the work, it gives you some ideas about the main principles of registration for different sections. If you're planning to play this piece, it might help to listen to a few recordings of the sound of Cavaillé-Coll organs playing Franck in order to get the sound world firmly embedded in your mind.